G'day folks, welcome back. This week I'm taking you back to Albania. This was my favourite country when I was travelling by Airbnb. What am I going to think about it travelling in a motorhome? Stick around, I'm going to take you to 6 different destinations around the country and I'll fill you in on my thoughts. Albania by motorhome. So as I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to take you to 6 different locations throughout Albania. Coming in from the north into Shkroder, I'll start there. I'm actually heading straight down to the south after that to Saranda, then Ksamil. Then I'm going to take you to Apollonia, which is a really cool archaeological site. Then across into Berat, also a really cool place, probably my favourite city now, and stick around to find out why. And then finally into Lake Ohrid before I then leave Albania. So stick around, there's a lot to cover, some really cool places. Hope you enjoy this video. So in each of the destinations that I've just listed, I will go through and do some presentations of points of interest, whether that's the city, the surrounding archaeological sites, the castle, whatever it might be, same as I have in all my videos up until now. But I'll also do a bit of an accommodation review to give you a bit of an idea of where I'm staying, what I'm staying in. This first place, unfortunately, I was a little bit lapsed and kind of forgot to do some videoing. But as you can see just on what you're seeing so far, this one, it was called Cantina Mani, and it was a winery. So basically inside the vineyard itself, in the vines, literally in amongst the vines, there's about 8 park-ups, all separated off with power and water and everything. It was great. Wrong time of year as far as vineyards though, because they're all bare, but it was otherwise a beautiful place. I mean, check out the hills and mountains in the background. I only stayed one night here, mainly because during the nights, the jackals come down out of the hills and they drive the village dogs crazy. So you can't sleep. But I suspect that that's just me not being able to sleep through barking dogs. I'm sure other people have a great time here. The owner was great. He came in the next morning knowing I was leaving and made me a coffee, gave me probably the best tasting raki I have ever had. And I've had a few rakis around Albania and various other places with their various similar types of drinks. And I've never liked any of them apart from the one from this place in Cantina Mani. So great little spot, perfect environment, but trouble is the dogs. So unfortunately, after one night, I moved on to my next camping spot, the name of which might be a little bit unusual. So this next campsite, it was also like the first one. It was a bit out of the way. It was on the edge of town, so a bit out of the way for getting to and from sites and so on. But the name, it's called Camping Australia. So who would have thought you'd find a place called Camping Australia in northern Albania? So it turns out the guy who runs it is an Albanian man who emigrated to Australia some several years ago, spent his working life in Australia, raised his family in Australia, and then when he retired, he decided to go back to Albania. And he set up this campsite, which is called Camping Australia. So the challenge with this place is it's a little bit too far out of town for me because I don't have a bicycle, and I want to go in and see the town. I want to see the castle, all that sort of stuff. So as much as this is a really, really nice place, and I reckon it would really go off in the summer when all the Riverside activities can be done. It's got a great little restaurant and bar area. It's got really good facilities. It was just a bit out of town for me. That said, I still stayed here for, I think it was 3 days, mainly because it poured with rain, and I thought, well, it doesn't really matter where I am, so I may as well enjoy this nice green space. But unfortunately, I did move on again. So my first return to Albania in a motorhome so far has just been bouncing campsites. A little bit unexciting, but this next one was probably the pick of the bunch. So let's check out Camping Bandura. So this campsite, I don't know why, but I didn't record a lot, but this was by far the best. It's just inside the city limits of Shkroder, right on the northern edge, perfect location for accessing the city, and it's only 5 kilometres away from the castle as well, so you can walk there or you can catch a cab. Really nice facilities, run by a really lovely family. if you're looking for somewhere you want to be in the city, this is the place for you. So what about the city itself? So Shkroder has a population just over 200,000, and it's often referred to as the capital of northern Albania. The city's been occupied since around about 2200 BC in one form or another, and for a long time it was considered the cultural and economic centre of the region that it's in. Like many of the Balkan cities and regions, it's had a number of different rulers and conquerors over the years, ranging from the Romans, the Byzantines, the Serbs, Venetians, Ottomans, and so on. The city itself is a city in a bit of transition. It's probably a little bit slow getting onto the development boat as far as modernising and moving towards a tourism base. But the current city leadership seem to be putting that as their highest priority. The city is certainly getting large amounts of development with bypass highways, with improved facilities, improved walking streets, and basically an aim towards making Shkroder a destination for tourism. So the skyline of Shkroder is dominated by Rozafa Castle. The castle sits about 130 metres above sea level, and it's got a really good commanding view over both the Buna and Drin rivers. And you can see why it created a great defensive position for what was a cultural and market hub for a very long time. The earliest fortifications date back to the 4th century BC. Obviously, a lot of the stuff you're seeing in this video is significantly more modern than that, but a lot of stuff's been added by subsequent rulers over time. The castle itself is not as well preserved in some ways as some places like Gjuricasta and so on, but it's still it's a beautiful place. It's got some amazing views. If you're going to Shkroder, you really, really do need to go and check this castle out. It's a great example of how life was, and I mean, I'm biased. I love a good castle, and so I always make a point of having a good look around. So I'll just leave you to enjoy the next little bit of footage, just walking around the castle. I will also mention there is actually a museum in the castle area itself. I didn't go into it because once you've been to a few of these places, the museums get to be a bit the same. So I skipped this one, but that's not to say that everyone should skip them. If you're only going to one castle, then definitely go to the museum because there's some really cool stuff in those museums. Rightio folks, so start of another week. Finally, well, it's actually Tuesday, but it's the start of another travelling week for me because I had to stay an extra day in Shkroder because Had a bit of trouble with a OneTel SIM card. They sold me one of those tourist SIM cards. It didn't work, and they said, yeah, it'll work eventually. So I went back again today, going, oh, it still doesn't work. They gave me another one, and it worked straight away. So, done SIM card. Really good customer service, though. Really kind staff in the store. So, definitely can't criticise OneTel. It's just these things happen with technology. I've had Australian SIM cards that don't work as well. Anyway, I digress. Leaving Shkroder today, I'm actually going via a mechanic's workshop because got a bit of a fuel smell from the vehicle when I park. So I'm wondering whether or not there's a fuel leak from the fuel return hose. So I'll go and have a look at that. So I'm going to try and go as far south as I can. I might even make it to Saranda in one day. It's only a 4.5 hour drive. Depends on what the mechanic says. So anyway, I'll let you know where I end up. So as it turns out, I did make it all the way to Saranda, but my God, was that a long drive. I finally got there quite late in the evening and I was having a bit of trouble finding campsites. So I ended up parking in one of the hotels in the city that allows camping motorhomes in their car park. Man, I'm never doing that again. It was awful. But shortly after that, I managed to track down Riverside Camping. And the friends that I'd made up in Bosnia were also there in the same campsite. So it was a nice little catch up with them. So this is a quick little walk around of the campsite. The other thing just to make a point of is if you want to know more about the campsites, I've actually got a playlist of short videos of any of the campsites that I recommend. If I don't like the campsite, I won't put a short video up on them. But check out that playlist because you'll get to see some of the places I've been to with a bit more detail about their facilities and amenities just in a short video. Now this is my second visit to Saranda, and so what I'll do is I'll link in the screen here a card to take you to my more detailed Saranda video. This video clip now is going to spend more time focusing on the changes and development here. As I'm just walking here though, you'll notice the presence of some motorhomes. That's another camp up that I'll just walk past. It's not the one I stayed at. This one I'm walking past now is a bit pricey, probably because of its location, and definitely not as nice as the one I was staying at in my book. Now, one of the things that I find amazing about Saranda is the itinerant population. It's a massive holiday town. And as a result, lots of the buildings that I'm walking past while you're watching this video clip are empty and will be empty for quite some time yet. The season for Saranda is very much the summer, a little bit of shoulder activity, but very much the summer. So anything outside that, most of these buildings are going to be empty. And what that means is most of the people who work in Saranda travel to Saranda for the work season and otherwise live in places like Durrës or Tirana or even Vlora. But it has a massive impact on the society, the community. It's still got a fantastic expat community, which is there most of the time, but it's again a pretty itinerant expat community. I really like Saranda, but I could never live there because it fluctuates from heavily saturated with tourists through to virtual abandonment on a seasonal basis. I'm not going to put a lot more detail into Saranda simply because there's that other video which I've previously linked. Go and have a look at that. I'm just going to walk around, have a look at all of these buildings. There's entire suburbs further down between Saranda's outskirts and Ksamil that are being built. Like the entire lot, there's high-rise after high-rise being built. But there's no one to live in them. These are all holiday accommodation that will be occupied for 3 or 4 months of the year, which I think is a really flawed model for a community. So, despite the lack of video content for it, I actually spent almost a month in Saranda because it's a place I've been before. I've got friends there and I enjoyed just relaxing and spending some time there. After I left Saranda, I just went south. This was spur of the moment. I wasn't going to go to Ksamil. I'm driving out of the campsite in Saranda and I thought, oh, what the hell, I'll turn left. This is the joys of this style of living. So I headed down to Ksamil and I stayed at this great little campsite called Ksamil Caravan Camping. Very small place, but it's possibly one of the better hospitalities I've ever had. Really nice little location. Ksamil itself is extremely touristy, so if you're going there, you've got to expect it to be pretty heavily populated with tourists. The campsite's very small, and so it fills up really quick. If you're going to go to that campsite, you probably need to make sure you get there by no later than midday, otherwise you're probably not going to get a spot. But check out what I've got here showing you some of the campsite. There are two parking areas, one on the top side of the road and one on the bottom side of the road. But like I say, it gets pretty full pretty quick. Now, Ksamil is a seaside tourist magnet, basically. It's a small town that's had a lot of expansion and growth, lots of new buildings being put in, lots of itinerant population, the same as Saranda as well, though. Last year I came here on the way through to Butrint, and none of the development I'm seeing here was there at that time. The footpaths, the roads were very, very poorly maintained. There were no footpaths. So a lot of development's been done in Ksamil in the last 6 to 8 months. Now, I'd say Ksamil is a lot more of a party town than Saranda is. It's a town with lots of little coves along the coast with some nice beaches. Beaches have got quite a lot of sunbeds and all that sort of stuff crowding them, but otherwise they're quite nice beaches. They're surrounded by a really good range of nice restaurants and bars as well. So there's a lot to meet your needs if you're into the beach side of things. That said, there's still room for development. This road, for example, that I walked along to get back to the campsite, it's obviously been there for a long time, but it's been very neglected. There's restaurants and bars along this as well, but they all seem a little bit abandoned. Quick little interruption to the content to put a bit of an appeal out there to you. If you're watching this video and you've gotten this far through, you must be enjoying it. Please consider clicking like, subscribe if you haven't already, and what would be really cool is if you gave me some thoughts in the comments below. Have you been there? What do you think about the place? Have I given you all the information you need? What sort of information would you like to see in future videos? Don't forget, comment, like, and definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers guys, back to the content. So in all, I spent 2 nights in Ksamil. Then I headed off, heading further north. Just wanted to show you a little bit of the scenery as you drive out, looking at the lagoon on the right as you're travelling out. But also, I mentioned in the section on Saranda about development. This area that you can see on the left as I'm coming up to this corner, this is all brand new. There are loads of new medium and higher rise buildings here. They're all empty. They're all being built on spec for the tourist population. Now, my intention was to go to Tepelene next. It struck me as a really interesting town, nice bit of history. It's also the home of one of the bigger water production companies in Albania. But then I got to the campsite, and as I drive down this little laneway now, you'll notice the campsite is in the middle of nowhere. It's a good 20-minute walk from the town. And there is literally nothing. The services are 2 tiny little sheds. The place looks like it saw a lawnmower a couple of years ago. It's just really poorly maintained. So I literally drove up, opened the gate, drove in, turned around, drove out, closed the gate and left. And ended up in Apollonia. Okay, this next section, I'm not going to say much about the campsite. It wasn't my favourite. I'm going to focus primarily on Apollonia's archaeological site. This was a great site, so check out the following clips. So I'm doing a bit of guesswork here. I'm heading bush. Just outside the Apollonia park up that I'm at. About 50 metres up, you can actually see the archaeological museum right up there in front of you. Well, not the museum, but the park. And I'm thinking, there's got to be a shortcut instead of going all the way around. And I think I found one. I think this is a shortcut. Actually, check it out. There's a bit of ruins right there in front of me. Don't know if you can see that because I can't zoom in on direct view. But I think if I just walk on this dirt path that I'm walking along, It'll angle up to where that bike's going now, which you may or may not be able to see. And it saves me having to go all the way around into the village, which would take an extra 20 minutes of walking, I think. So here's hoping, if you don't hear from me, well, you won't see this video, but who knows where I'm going to end up. But what the hell, I've got several hours of daylight.
Now, it's important to note that what I'm going to be walking you through today is the archaeological park of Apollonia. The actual colony was quite a bit larger than this, but large amounts of it have still not been unearthed. The colony was founded in around 600 BC by Greeks, and over time it became part of the Roman Empire. They were extremely loyal and happy members of the Roman Empire. It housed Roman garrisons during the wars with Macedonia. It was quite a strong settlement. Unfortunately, there was an earthquake in the 3rd century AD that did quite a bit of damage to the city's harbour. The harbour was on the side of the river Vjosa, I think that's how you pronounce it. And so yeah, the city went into decline and eventually was abandoned. As far as archaeological parks go, this one's quite large, but it's also relatively undiscovered. There's quite a lot of area that's still unearthed and unrestored. But there's everything from an Odeon, the Church of St Mary, which is actually what we're walking through the grounds of right now. There's quite a lot of stuff from Roman times through to more recent times in the 3rd century before the city went into its decline. I'll just leave you now just to check out some of these sites as I walk through.
Those of you who have watched my earlier videos, and particularly the one about Durrës and also the one in Tirana, you'll see me talk about the bunkers in Albania. I've just spotted something while I'm walking around this Apollonia park that I'm just going to zoom into, and I'll flick the camera and zoom in. Really cool view, but they got some serious bunkers on the hill across there. Just check this out. So this is the same view that you were looking at. Now look at this. Sorry, it's not all that steady, but I'm going to have to see if I can try and get over there somehow. It's a decent old walk over there, but that's cool. So to give you a little bit of context, where I started is over that way. You can just see the dome of monastery, and just over that way, I'll flip the camera around. You can see the campsite and my motorhome. So there you go. That's where I'm parked. Let's see if I can zoom in well enough. Yep, there it is on the right hand side, just over those greenhouses. Okay, so I've spent probably about 2.5 hours walking around the site here. Some really cool stuff. Definitely, if you're in Albania, definitely recommend Apollonia as a place to go. Pros, it's not as expensive as some places. It's not cheap, €6 to get in. So it's pretty good from that perspective, I suppose. It's moderately well preserved. Some areas are not very well preserved at all, but moderately well preserved. But The biggest con is no signage. And I mean no signage. When you walk up to an actual site, there's a sign with a photo and this is what this was. But this is a big park, and there's a lot of little roads to walk along. And there's not a single sign saying if you go left here, you'll find the Acropolis. If you go right here, you'll find the bunkers. Nothing. So, and they give you a map, but the map is, yeah, really not that helpful. There's even things on the map that aren't in the index for the map. So like number 18 in the list of 20 odd places. There is no number 18, there's a dot with 18 on it, but nothing in the list. So probably a good idea to put some signs at the intersections. Now, having said all of that, I'm literally walking up to a sign. It's the first one I've seen. You might be able to see it just there. It says theatre. It's not the greatest of signs, but apparently down this hill here is one of the old theatres.
Okay, so now I arrive at Berat. This was definitely my favourite campsite. I don't seem to have recorded any video in wide format. I do have a short though, which I'll link above so that you can go and have a look at it. It's a fantastic campsite run by possibly one of the most hospitable hosts I've ever had.
I'm going to be doing a bit of a walk around Berat today, so starting the video off at this particular location because it's a great view of the windows that the city is famous for. A little bit of question, lots of people will say it's the city of 1001 windows. However, there might be a translation issue in that. I'm going to put some information on the screen for you once I've done a bit of searching, but there's some suggestion it's never been called the city of 1000 windows. It's been called the city of 1/1 windows, as in sort of that stacked cascading sort of look that you see on the screen there. But anyway, castle up above it, which will be a day after tomorrow walk. But today, just going to walk around, going to walk down to the old bridge now, and just basically stroll through the old historic town and then back to the campsite through Republican Boulevard, which is a nice walking street with restaurants and cafes and so on.
So by way of a bit of history as we walk around the town, there's evidence of occupation of the Berat City in the Berat area since around about the 7th century BC. Officially, it seems that the city was founded in the 3rd century BC, but there's no firm date confirmed that I could find. The city, like most in these areas, has been occupied by quite a few different occupying empires. The Romans, the Byzantines. Interestingly, it was also part of the Bulgarian Empire for a period of time. So there's quite an extensive history. It's quite an interesting place to explore for its history. Republica Boulevard is quite a nice place to go for a stroll. The thing I like most about it is the gardens on the median between the Republica Boulevard and the main thoroughfare of the town.
So I'm just walking along Republica Boulevard, and it's quite a nice little sort of walking street area. As you can see, a lot of history around it. But one of the things that's really common in Albania is this. Now, that looks like it's been in construction for a long time. Now, I'm really kind of hoping that they don't just leave it like that, which often in Albania you'll find in this beautiful, beautiful environment an eyesore like that. So I'm really hoping that that's not going to be the norm, because it looks like it was going to be quite a cool building, but it also looks like they stopped building it like 10 years ago. So hopefully they resume, because this is a really nice place. Out of all of the regional cities, or for that matter even Tirana, out of all of the cities that I've been to in Albania so far, I think I'm pretty much falling in love with Berat. It's just such a beautiful, historic city. So yeah, hopefully they progress well in this area and don't leave buildings like that to decay and make it look really sad. Anyway, I've got, I don't know if you can see it up there in front, but it's a pretty black looking cloud coming over the mountain, and I've got 20 minutes to walk directly in that way to the campsite I'm at. So here's hoping I don't get drenched on the way. So this clip is going to be a couple of hours of walking around Berat Castle. I got the guy who runs the campsite, Emil, to drive me up here because it's incredibly steep. To give you an impression, so that's Berat in the distance there. If you can see the tiny little patch in the middle of green up there, I'll put a little arrow in the video. That's actually where the campsite is. So it would have been a decent old walk to not only do the distance but then do the hill. I know lots of people do it, but I'm a fat old man, so to use an Australian phrase, bugger that. Anyway, enjoy the walk around. I'll video as much as I can that's worth seeing. Hope you enjoy.
So the interesting thing about Berat Castle is it's actually a thriving residential neighbourhood. People still live inside the castle. The neighbourhood area is actually called Kala, which links to the original castle name, which I think from memory was Kalaja. So it's quite quite an interesting thing to see people living in these ancient buildings. The buildings, or the castle itself, has its origins back in the 4th century. Obviously, things have been built on and destroyed and built on, as there's been a number of different conquests involving this castle. The castle also houses 20 churches, plus the remnants of of 2 mosques. So there's quite a lot happening in this castle. As you walk through the castle, there's quite a few restaurants, there's quite a few bars, and even some convenience stores, which you would expect. It's a thriving residential neighbourhood. So it's not just a tourist attraction. So it makes it just gives it a slightly different flavour when you're walking through, and it certainly as a tourist, when you're walking through with your camera out, really does make you think twice about what you're taking a photograph of, because you might just be taking a photograph of somebody's backyard. As I was planning to leave Berat, I was really a bit uncertain of where my path was going to take me next. This is again one of the joys of travelling in this style. You can change your mind at any minute. So I knew I wanted to go to Bulgaria. I just hadn't decided. Will I go through North Macedonia or will I go down into Greece? So on the way, I figured the most logical direction to go is towards Lake Ohrid, because that way I can do either of those 2 options. So I also wanted somewhere where I could just relax by a bit of water, maybe even take a dip if it was not too freezing, and just relax for a few days before heading off to the next tourist site, for want of a better word. So here's a little bit of a rundown of Lake Ohrid and the 2 campsites that I ended up staying in over the time I was there. So as you're about to see, the first campsite, Camping Peshku, ideal location, literally right on the edge of a lake. Really nice setup, nice restaurant, lots and lots of parking spots for motorhomes. Probably not enough sanitary facilities for such a potentially large guest population, but other than that, it was a perfect little spot. When I first arrived, there was a large group of French all travelling as a group, and they left the day after I arrived, which freed up some of the beachfront parking. So I parked off the beach the first time and then right up on the beachfront the second night onwards. That said, I did move on. I stayed in 2 different campsites, and the reason is purely because of the Wi-Fi in this campsite. As someone who does YouTube, I need a reliable Wi-Fi, and it just wasn't reliable in this campsite, unfortunately. Now, as luck would have it, I moved to another campsite just a little bit further down the lake, closer to the Macedonian border, which also didn't have good enough Wi-Fi. So that just cut short the last few days of my time in Albania, and I stayed here for 2 nights as well, and that was the end of my time in Albania. So now I had to make a decision. How was I going to get to Bulgaria? Which way am I going?
Rightio. So that's it. I'm now leaving Albania and heading into Greece. So off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly how long I've been in Albania, but it's about 2 months, probably a little bit more. Heading into Greece now. I'm only going to be in Greece for a very short period of time. I really don't know how the new motorhome laws are affecting things. I don't wild camp anyway, but I get the feeling that might mean that campsites are a bit full, which will impact me in a big way. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be the next video though, because this is the end of touring Albania for the time being. Of course, Albania is my go-to country for escaping Schengen, so there'll be plenty more coming from Albania. I'll now do a wrap-up of all of the costs associated with all of my time in Albania. So hopefully that'll be informative to people who are thinking about coming here. It's certainly, I certainly came in quite substantially under my budget, which is a good thing, particularly since I had to spend so much, as I mentioned previously, when I bought this motorhome to repair the mechanical issues. So anyway, stick around now, and I'll do that run through of the costs. I will talk through it because it's an itemised thing, and check out the next video, which will be passing through Greece and into Bulgaria. Cheers, guys.
Okay, so I won't talk your ear off on this one. I'll just quickly run through it. So travel-related expenses totaled $1,738. That included $1,563 in accommodation parking, roughly $25 a night. I only did one tour, and that was the castle, so there really wasn't much in the way of tours. Other transport, particularly when I was in Saranda, I did a bit of bus travel to and from the city, and buses finish around 5:30 or 6:30 or something, so I was using taxis to get home in the evenings. As far as vehicle related, again, I hadn't been doing mileage, so I can't tell you that, and I also hadn't been separating gas from fuel. But in total, with $478 worth of fuel and $65 worth of other stuff associated with vehicle repairs, particularly the fuel filter, total of $543 in vehicle-related costs. Living expenses, a little bit higher than normal, actually, because when I was in Saranda, I did a lot of eating out and socialising. So total cost was $2,401. 724 of that was eating out. Groceries was still fairly high at 1,393. Also did buy a sandwich toaster, which I managed to break the day I bought it. So then I bought another one when I went to Bulgaria. Internet was $83 and random miscellaneous other things, including haircuts and laundry fees, and a renewal of my annual Surfshark subscription resulted in $177. And finally, the fixed expenses. Remember, this is for 64 days, so $413 in total, comprising health insurance, phone, Netflix, etc. So that meant that a total of $5,095, this is Australian dollars, for 64 days in Albania. That works out to, on average, $79 a day. That's something for people to think about. Obviously, the US dollar separation is there at 3,339, rounded up. So it gives you a bit of an idea of what it would cost. Hope that was useful to you. Stick around for the future videos. Bulgaria is coming up next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.